The third section in the Satipatthana Sutta is mindfulness of mind. It's not referring to thinking, but it's more accurately would be called mindfulness of states of mind. So there's a specific list that's given. And I'll read the list here, and you can see, get the idea of what it's talking about. The first three states of mind, it gives us, there's a list which is called, some of you know this, called the three defilements. And it's called greed, hatred, and delusion. You'll hear the word kilesas. It's called defilements. Greed is a euphemism for, it can be greed when it's quite strong, but it's the wanting mind. Sometimes they say lust or wanting. The next one they call hate or hatred. That's a strong word, and it can be that strong, but again, it's a euphemism. It refers to the aversive mind, wanting to get away from something or get something unpleasant away from us. So there's greed, hatred, and then delusion. And delusion, that's a big topic, and probably beyond the time we have in this session to fully explore that. But it's one flavor of it is any time we don't see things clearly. There can be confusion, some cloudiness, just lack of clarity. That's a delusion. And then there also can be a delusion that is kind of an ignorance, where we, for example, if we think a life filled with chasing after sense pleasures is going to ultimately lead to our well-being and happiness, obviously it can lead to some happiness in a given moment, but that would be a delusion to think that. That's more of an ignorance. So I think in the moment, in this sense, it's just, is there a clarity or a cloudiness in the mind? So the first part is we're invited to know mindfully when, if greed is present, or if it's not there in the mind, we know that mindfully. If hatred is present, we know it. If it's not there, we know that. Sometimes we can space out when these things aren't there, but we can act and we don't pay attention or notice, but we can actually be aware, I don't have ill will or hatred in my mind. Similarly for delusion, if the mind's clear or if it's not there. And then there are some more pieces here I'll read in the list. If the mind's contracted, we know that the mind feels contracted. So what is that? Well, that would be a sense or a feeling about the mind as opposed to feeling expansive. Distracted, we all know distracted minds. If you ever, for all of us who sit to meditate, the times when the mind is not really steady and present and clear, and it's more moving around all over the place, that'd be a distracted mind. Exalted mind and unexalted. So this word exalted is interesting, but there can be states of mind where that word exalted probably feels appropriate. Some of the beautiful Brahmavihara states of metta, loving kindness, compassion, things like that can feel quite, I think exalted might be a good word when they really are very strong and powerful. So you can mindfully know if the mind's in a state like that. They use the word surpassed mind and unsurpassed. So again, we can get into some of these are more specialized states of consciousness where you might say you're in something, you might use that term, that might be the feeling of it. You understand if your mind is concentrated, when the samadhi is present in whatever degree or to whatever amount, however deep it is, you know that mindfully. If your mind is not concentrated, we can be mindful of that. And finally, liberated or an unliberated mind. So, you feel your way into that, but it can feel sometimes like you're not making claims to be fully enlightened or whatever that means, but certainly it can feel pretty liberated at times. So we can touch into places like that. So all of these we can be aware of. Again, as I've spoken about in previous sessions, these practices can be prescriptive or descriptive. Prescriptive is and there are people who their entire practice is paying attention to states of mind. So most people need some stability, some samadhi to be able to do that. If you took a lot of beginning meditators and asked them to pay attention, they might be able to do it some, so you can see for yourself how it is. But many of us need some kind of, like mindfulness of breathing, to steady our minds. So anyway, that's prescriptive. Descriptive describes, this has been a progression, an ever subtler progression. We started with the breath, worked through other mindfulness of the body practices. As you steady the mind, your awareness becomes more attuned. You become more easily, naturally aware of the second foundation of mindfulness, the Vedana, the feeling tone. And sometimes these other mental states can be a little harder to get to, not always. And so now we've settled more and we're naturally more aware of these states. So you can see for yourself if you want to approach them as more prescriptive or descriptive. And then again, how do you experience them internally and externally? Internally, you're having the experience. Externally, I think it's similar to Vedana. My sense is we got these standard phrases that got into the texts. You'll have to experiment for yourself. I don't know if the external is really applicable here. You can also notice the arising and passing away, as we have with the other practices. That's an option laid out here. And so you can play with that to actually notice that whatever state of mind you have, these things come and go. You can be in states of mind that you might call unsurpassed or exalted. And then another time you can have the presence of one of the hindrances, the hatred or delusion. So we notice that these things are coming and going, changing in service of the non-clinging, or just the bare mindfulness of what's happening. And again, you can notice by doing this, does it support you to remain independent, not clinging?